be this one skill that so many aesthetic business owners have a challenge with that prevents them from being able to scale, prevents them from not having the feeling of two steps forward, one step back, right? And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck in the day to day, struggling to be able to grow, chances are that delegation is your culprit. Okay. And listen, guys, I have been absolutely guilty of these mistakes that I'm going to be talking about as well in my own business. And I see them time and time again, right? We start out in our businesses doing everything ourselves. And so, as a med spa owner, you are running the business, you're seeing patients, you're doing the marketing, you're freaking taking laundry home, right? You name it, you do it, you wear all the hats. But as your business grows, right, you have to have the ability to delegate effectively, right? Because you have become the bottleneck in your business. And so if you don't get delegation down effectively, you are going to feel like this hamster wheel where you are, you're feeling like you're working your hiney off, but it's not reflected in the bottom line, right? You might give something up or delegate only to have to take it back over yourself. And so, as I've helped med spas all across the country scale and streamline their businesses, I've really noticed that delegation mistakes happen over and over again. And again, I'm guilty of this myself in my business. So I want to talk about really the two biggest mistakes when it comes to delegation and how to help you overcome those, because you are, if you're the bottleneck in your business, right, your ceiling is going to be here. But when you are able to really become a master delegator, you're going to increase that ceiling sometimes even tenfold. All right, so the biggest mistake, the number one mistake that I see when we first go to start delegating, and for some of my team that is watching will maybe chuckle and laugh a little bit because I was absolutely guilty of this mistake in the past. And that is over controlling or micromanaging, right? You delegate something, but you really just can't let it go. You still micromanage them and are controlling the situation. And you feel like, well, what, like, why am I even paying this person to do it when I'm having to still do the work for them themselves, right? But in reality, right, I didn't really let it go. I'm still micromanaging it too much. And I can remember that I worked with a med spa owner who was phenomenal at injectables and had really built a strong brand. And she decided that she wanted to bring in a new nurse injector to be able to free up her schedule, right? She wanted to be able to work on the business, not just in the business. So she wanted to bring in this new injector. But the problem is that she was too afraid to let go, right? So even after extensive training, she still micromanaged every single little appointment. She double checked every single treatment plan. She hovered over this new provider. And because she was so worried that things wouldn't be done her way, that she never truly let go. So what happened is this new injector was like walking on eggshells. She felt, stifled. She had no confidence, and clients could feel her tension. And so ultimately what happened is she quit and she went to another med spa and was wildly successful from there. When she was able to have that independence, she immediately gained that confidence. And what happened to this owner was she stayed trapped in the treatment room and unable to really focus on those higher level business growth strategies that she wanted to in the first place. And this is what happens when we delegate, but we don't trust. Right. And I know that some of you may be thinking, well, but I want it done a certain way. I want it done a certain way. And we're absolutely going to talk about how to be able to, with confidence, delegate and let go here a little later on in the training. So the other common mistake that I see when it comes to delegation is just throwing people, your team, to the wolves, right? Disappearing on them, just walking away from what you've assigned them to do. So on the flip side of this, I've seen owners delegate too much, too quickly, right? And just completely check out. And that's not a good thing either. That's not putting your team in the position to succeed. And I feel like sometimes we see business owners do this because they're not really ready to let it go. So they'll just like let it go and then be like, well, I'm not going to do it at all. I'm not going to be involved in it at all, because it's almost they want to be like, oh, I'm the give it back to them because I truly am the only person that can do it, right? And the reality is that if you don't have a business, right, in a team, if you're the only one that can do the thing in your business. So you want to be able to delegate anything and everything at any given point of time. Now, there's certain high level activities that I want you to hold on to and that you should be the one driving the bus. But at the end of the day, if you get sick, if something happens, right, you still want to be able to delegate anything and everything. So a specific example around, delegating and then walking away, washing your hands of it and not setting your team up for success. I can specifically remember a client that had a new practice manager. And she essentially was just like, here, take over everything, right? They figured like their experience, they're just going to figure it out, and didn't give them any clear guidance or accountability or this is how I like things to be done. These are my expectations, right? And in essence, like she neglected important things that the business owner in her mind was like, these are, this is what I expect. This is what I would do if I was quote unquote the practice manager. But she never communicated that. Right. And so the practice manager focused and worked on the things that she thought she was supposed to, right, without any clear direction. And then fast forward 1 month, 3 months, then the business owner was just like, well, you suck, you're not meeting my expectations, I want to let you go. And the manager had no idea, right, that the business owner was unhappy. And while I think in this particular case, the practice manager could have and should have been doing a few other things, right? But at the same time, I don't think that the business owner properly set this team member up for success because she didn't communicate what her expectations and she didn't check in. She didn't immediately provide feedback when she felt like it was going in the wrong direction. She didn't have any SOPs or anything documented because everything was up in her head and she just did it all of herself. And she expected someone to come in and do it her way without really clearly communicating, demonstrating, and showing what her way was. Okay. So that's an example of just like walking away, washing your hands of something, and then expecting your team to be able to succeed and do it. And that is not an effective delegation strategy either. All right. So those are the two most common mistakes, either really over micromanaging, right, and not truly letting go, and trusting that that you've set your team up for success and that you can count on them to do it, right? And then the other mistake is just walking away, throwing them to the wolves, letting them sink or swim. And neither are effective delegation techniques, right? And of course, when we delegate, we don't consciously think that we are setting our team up to fail, right? It's not generally your mission in mind that you start with, but we see it regularly. So I want you as a leader to get to sit back and have some honest self-reflection about how you delegate tasks and responsibilities, projects, events to your team. And there is a strategy called the 4 zones of delegation that I would like to share with you. And really, it is a framework that will help you to determine 1, how to delegate, right? 2, what to delegate, and then to what degree you should delegate. And these are all really important things that should be considered before giving away tasks, right? Because remember, you're the leader, you're the business owner. You were originally doing those tasks for a reason because they were really important and they needed to get done and they contribute to the success of the business. So delegation should not be done haphazardly, right? And so let's be strategic on how we delegate it. Okay, so let's break it down. So the first one, zone one really is it like done or deleted? Meaning these are low importance, maybe low skill sets that eat up your time, but don't really move the needle. So like, for example, ordering skincare products for retail, right? Cleaning treatment rooms, scheduling social media posts, booking team lunches with reps, right? All of those things need to get done. Absolutely, but they are low on the importance scale. So you don't need to spend time on these, right? Delegate them, provide minimal training and move on, right? You could be having your receptionist or an assistant, an admin, right? Take these tasks off of your plate. Don't keep them on yours, right? The next level is informed progress, right? So these are really high important tasks that don't require a lot of skill, but do require oversight. Okay, so for example, answering, client inquiries, phone calls, DMs, creating content for social media, following up with leads from email campaigns, right? These tasks absolutely impact revenue. So you want to make regular updates to ensure that these things are being done properly and timely, right? But at the same time, again, like not necessarily what you need to be spending your time on, right? So these impact revenue. So you want to regularly, check KPIs and benchmarks to make sure that they're being handled correctly, have quality control and assurances built in. But again, you shouldn't be spending a lot of time doing those things. Like for instance, like if your front desk team is responsible for lead follow-ups, you should be reviewing the process regularly with secret shoppers, right? You should be listening to phone calls, right? Whether you have like weave call recording, you should be checking their benchmarks on conversion rates and training them, providing feedback on scripts, but you shouldn't be the one actually responding to those specific tasks, right? And the worst mistake is letting them handle it for months without checking in and then being like, oh, like our marketing isn't working. We don't have, we're not converting any patients from it. And then you look and you're like, there's all these leads, but then they haven't been followed up with, right? And yeah, it's their responsibility, right? They should have followed up with them, but it's also your responsibility as the leader, right? To have checks and balances in place so these don't go on for months and months and months. Okay, the next level is informed results. So this is where tasks require a high level of skill, but they're not necessarily like business critical for you to monitor constantly. So you may be able to trust a team member, but you again still want to check results, right? So, maybe that's your monthly reports for your financials. Maybe that's the data on the open rate on your marketing email campaigns, right? Or ROI on your marketing. Again, if you have KPIs and benchmarks that you've set, then you could trigger like, okay, if we fall below this, if we're not hitting this, then you need to notify me, right? And so those are examples of building that are higher level skills, right? That you can delegate and that you build in accountability. So again, you're not having to take on every single thing, right? And you don't want to micromanage an experienced injector or a skilled esthetician, but you do need to check in on client satisfaction. You need to check in on treatment outcomes and revenue per hour for sure, rebooking rates, utilization rates by provider. These are all things that are absolutely worth your time. And when you build in checks and balances, you're not having to spend so much time on due diligence, but you're making decisions on where you spend your time and energy based on data, not on feeling. I had a conversation with a med spa this morning that it was like, I feel this, I think that, I feel that, like everything was based on I think and I feel. And that is not a way to run a business, especially at scale, right? I see oftentimes when it's a solopreneur or maybe a med spa that only has 1 or 2 employees and they're the main revenue generator, they do a lot of things off of feel, right? Or based on what they do, thinking that I do it this way, so my team's probably doing it that way as well. And it got them to the level that they're at. But when you start to grow and develop your team, you can no longer make decisions based on feel or based on what you do, right? You have to base it on the numbers that your team and your business are generating, right? That's how you make informed decisions in your business. All right. And the last and final zone is don't delegate. There are certain things in your business that you should absolutely not delegate. So these tasks require not only a high level of expertise, but they have the biggest impact on your business at the end of the day, right? So for example, like what your core values are and what is acceptable, right, in your practice, your patient journey, right? What is your consultation and conversion and checkout process? What is that brand story that you have in your marketing? What is who you're hiring, right, at the end of the day, to make sure that not only do they do great, service and treatment, but they're going to be a good fit in your culture, in your team, so that they really can stay with you long term, right? What is your vision for your practice, right? Do you one day want to have multi-locations or a franchise? Do you want to just be like the best solopreneur in your area? Do you want to be known for specific services, right? So these are all examples that you absolutely, as the leader in your business, should not delegate. Now, you can ask for help and ideas and counseling on for you to make that final decision, but there's just certain things that you should not delegate as the visionary leader in your business. So as you are scaling and growing and you're identifying yourself as the bottleneck in your business, I want you to first look at the things that you're considering to let go in your business, and then think about the 4 levels of delegation or zones that I talked about to decide what should you delegate and what you should and just be done with, right? What you should delegate and have oversight of, and what you should absolutely keep at the end of the day. And that's going to help you to be able to properly scale, to properly delegate, because otherwise what happens is it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then once you run those different tasks of delegation through those 4 zones, then you got to make sure that you aren't committing the 2 common mistakes of micromanaging delegation or not setting them up for success and just walking away too early before you have the proper, SOP, protocol, and checks and balances, and that accountability, right? That feedback loop in place. And when you apply the 4 zones, and then when you commit to not making those 2 common mistakes of micromanaging or, just throwing them to the wolves, then I promise you, you're 1 step closer to becoming a master delegator. And that's really what it's going to take for you to continue to grow and scale your business, because it's not possible for just one person to do it. And if you are of the mindset of like, oh, I'm the only person that can do these things, I can tell you that I've had my own mindset blocks around that myself in my own business for many years. And it wasn't until I really challenged myself on 2 things. One is to really document and with a fine-tooth comb to look at how I do things, right? What is my way of doing things? And to meet all learners' styles, meaning I have it written, I have it on video. So if there's visuals, if they're a visual learner, if there's someone that likes to read and like memorize, right? If there's someone that likes audio, that someone's like, different case studies and examples, right? You want to meet all learners' needs when you are creating these SOPs, these systems, and the training. And then the second thing is to delegate people to people that can do it better than you, that care, that will take even more pride in you doing it. And if you're like, well, I don't have that type of people on my team, then I would challenge you to look at the core values of your business and what is acceptable and who you are recruiting and bringing on to your team. Because when I was able to step outside of myself and look at how I was completing the different tasks in my business and get really organized in creating SOPs and scripts and systems and training models, right? And then I built a team of people that are self-starters that take so much pride in their work, right? And really adhere and live by Diamond's core values of being growth minded, of being confident, of showing love to themselves, to their team, to our clients, being results driven, right? Taking ownership of their work, right? And their results at the end of the day. Then, guys, delegation is easy. Delegation feels good because it makes room for me to work on the things that I'm most passionate about. It gives me room to work on the things that are going to move my business forward the most, right? Because I know that I am just one person. And for me to grow and scale, right? And for you to grow and scale, you need to build a strong team. But you also have to set that team up for success. So you need to be able to apply, right, and really look at what you're trying to delegate to see what you should be and shouldn't be delegating in your business, what you should hold on to and what you should be delegating. And then you need to set them up for success, right? And that's something that we're so passionate at Diamond Accelerator, and really our operations consultants really are masters at helping you create SOPs, scripts, training, and then teaching your team how to use them. And then we take that one step further to make sure that you have accountability and a feedback loop in place. And we often find that people will spend a lot of time on the process or the system, which is absolutely one of the first steps, right? And they'll give it to their team and they'll have a training, right? And then they'll be like, okay, we're good, right? And then they'll walk away. And then a week, a month, a quarter, a year goes by, and then it's not getting done the way that they want to, right? And it's because they don't have accountability or a feedback loop in place. Because I can't tell you how many times that I've built a strategy, a system, or a training, I've given it to my team, right? And I have accountability, right? But if I'm not open to their feedback, right, I'm not open to fine tuning it and optimizing it, I'm also missing the opportunity for growth there. And so you have to have that accountability loop or that feedback loop open for your team to feel comfortable and confident to be like, hey, have you considered this? Hey, I'd like to try this, right? Because if they're the ones consistently doing it, you should expect them to provide you feedback, just like they should expect you to provide them feedback. And that's something we're passionate about Diamond Accelerator as well, is that part of one of our love core values is that not only do I love you enough to provide feedback because I want you to be wildly successful in your role, but you can provide me feedback as well in what you need to be successful. And it's that two-way street of really showing love to one another and our team as a whole. And you have to keep those lines of communication. And that's going to set you up and them up for success to get the job done at the end of the day. Because I promise you, your team wants to do good by you. They want to be a high performer. They want to create a great experience for patients. They want the business to grow. They want their commission or their paycheck to grow as well. And so when you set them up for success, right, by being able to properly delegate and in a way that allows them to do their job right? You're happy and they're happy at the end of the day. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions. Hey, Kimberly. Hey, Kristen. Thanks for joining us. Any questions around delegation? And I'm curious to know if anyone can share with me potentially some challenges that you've had with delegation. Have you ever, I'm sure we've all felt like we've tried delegating something in the past and then it just didn't work out. And so we took it back, right? So now after hearing this training, have you thought, okay, maybe I played a role in that? Right? Maybe I played a role in the fact that I didn't properly set my team up for success because I micromanaged them, right? And or frankly, I just didn't do the proper training, or maybe I just didn't have the accountability and feedback loop in place. Any thoughts on where you potentially maybe went the wrong direction when trying to delegate in the past, or potentially what things in your business are you looking to delegate right now that's going to help free up, right? I challenge you, if you're watching this right now, what things in your business do you have that you need to get off your plate to make room for you to work on higher level skills or tasks that you need to be focused on to take your business to the next level? I'd love to hear what you really feel right now. And Amanda, I would love for you to chime in and share with me what you're seeing with med spas and some of the things that they need to be delegating that they're having a hard time letting go. If you want to unmute yourself and share that, that would be awesome. Or Morgan Lee, MJ, what are some of the things that you guys are seeing that people are having a hard time not delegating, right? That's holding them back from really scaling?
I would say one of the biggest things is just inventory cycle counts. So finding one trusted team member who can at least take that cycle count off of your plate. That doesn't mean that I still want you taking the liberty and entering in that information, cross-referencing it with, what's coming out through your POS system. But, that cycle count is lengthy. So if you have lead roles like a lead front desk, lead injector, someone trusted in your office just to take on the brunt of that cycle count, that's going to save you a lot of time where you could be investing energy elsewhere. I'm seeing a lot of people struggle to let that go. Now, I'm not also saying to let go of inventory completely. I don't think that would be wise, but the cycle count definitely, I think, can be delegated.
I love that. And that's a perfect example because that's a scary one for them to let go because it could go awry in a hot mess quickly, right? And what we see with that is that people they let that go, but they've completely just walked away from it instead of only letting go segments of it that's time consuming, but you build in that checks and balance and doing that requires the high level oversight and skill set to really see it through. Another example, just to piggyback on that, is commission or bonus reports, right? Can be very time consuming. I know I do it every single month, but I am the last set of eyes that looks at it. I can't even imagine having to do it from start to finish for your entire team, right? That's very time consuming, but it's also very important at the end of the day. So that's an example of where I've delegated that, but I'm absolutely the last pair of eyes before it's sent out. Any other from the consultants that you want to share that we see that our clients having a hard time delegating?
I think that one of the things that we need to utilize more, especially it doesn't really matter what level of med spa, whether you're new or you're very established, but utilizing AI, like we talked about last week, and being able to delegate specific tasks and piggybacking on the inventory. Those cost of goods are going to be exorbitant, and that is going to be a huge thing on your profit and loss report. So what we want to do is really make sure that is with a trusted person or done with AI, and use that technology to free up your time. We use it internally in our business, and I really encourage everybody to be able to delegate tasks and have those checks and balances.
Yeah, great point, Amanda. Thank you. I love that. Another one that MJ shared, and I see this as well, is we won't delegate consultations, right? And I get it, because like if you don't convert, right, if you don't get them booked and committed to a treatment plan, then there is no revenue, there's no opportunity to do the treatment. But I will tell you that that's something that is like code red, right? We all need to focus on being amazing in the consultation room, because what happens is when you have that mentality of I'm the only one that can do consultations, or there's only one person in the practice that can do consultations. Well, what happens after they've completed your treatment plan, right? What happens to rebooking? What happens to the follow-up, right? The upsell, the next, like, I'm aging every single day, right? I'm exposed to sun, all the things. I have different events that come along. So if I'm only going to get recommendations on what's next or what I should be doing by the first initial consultation, you are leaving opportunity on the table. So everyone should be A players when it comes to the consultation process, or at least know when to bring in other team members, right, of what's next. And there's a number of ways to be able to achieve that, but you shouldn't be pigeonholed on one person doing consultations. So great. Julie, any ones that you want to share? Morgan Lee, any ones that you want to share?
I think from a marketing standpoint, not speaking as a consultant, but I have a lot of, my clients that I meet with on a regular basis that are often afraid to delegate just certain marketing tasks to a lot of their team members to handle and take over for them while they're focusing on, bigger, more important things. I know that they want to be involved and want to know the numbers and the results, but I do see a lot of clients that we work with that are afraid to kind of put that off on someone else on their team, or want to be so involved in every single step of the marketing, which is, great. But at the same time, there's a lot of times where there's certain things for marketing that don't really require, as much attention when you could be focusing on something else.
Yeah, great point. That again is where, with your marketing especially, right? It can't be just like, oh, I do all the marketing or I do none of the marketing, I delegate it, right? There are elements to your marketing that you should absolutely hold on to, right? Making those big decisions, like what your core front end offers are, what your, brand design, strategy, voice, right? Those are all things that you should absolutely be the driving force in. But there are little things, right, that compound, that take up a lot of time, that you should absolutely be delegating to others, because a lot of the things in marketing doesn't need perfection, right? You need consistency in showing up on these different platforms, right? And you can delegate a lot of those things to your team, right? Or with your marketing partner, but you have to be the leader in organizing that, and then having those checks and balances and benchmarks built in. But Julie, great point. I couldn't agree more. We often see the delegation mistake of over micromanaging or absolutely just walking away, and neither are going to give you the best results possible. I always say when it comes to marketing, right around creating content, especially, is that people have perfection complexes, and I have been guilty of this over the years as well, and sat, sidelines for many years before I became more comfortable and confident in regularly creating content. And what I really had to get over at the end of the day is done is better than perfect, because perfect never gets done. Right? It never gets done, because there is no such thing as perfect at the end of the day. And guess what? When that finally clicked for me, I started showing up with consistency. And when I show up consistently, I get much better. I'm much more confident. I'm much more clear in my messaging. And so it's a muscle, right? That you have to use, because if you don't use it, then you lose it. That's for sure. All right, guys. So thank you for all of those that have contributed. Actually, Amanda made another good point of being able to know when it's time to ask for help and trust a professional when it comes to things like, you know, marketing, inventory, financials, right? All are really important things. So thank you, Amanda, for adding that as well. All right, guys. So just to wrap things up here in a nutshell, right? To be able to scale, you have to become a master delegator, right? And when you're a master delegator, you can't be micromanaging low-level tasks, right? You can't just assume people are just going to figure out on their own. And so you want to use the 4 zones of delegation to be able to delegate strategically. That's when you're going to be happy. That's when your team is going to be happy. And that is when you're going to get shit done and you're going to achieve great success and momentum in your business. Okay. Because your team really is only as strong as your ability to empower them and set them up for success. So master this skill, master delegation, and watch your med spa scale and grow faster than you ever thought it could. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here. We'll see you back here next week. Please share this with your team in another med spa that could grow. And you can catch us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, same time, same place every single week. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. Bye.